Hey there, kitty cats. It's me, Rob Sagimura, back after a lengthy hiatus. And this is Game Bar Game Cave, where we play games bad and we look bad doing it. Today, I am back after a bout with COVID and a bout with mysterious illness numero uno, and having vacationed in 2 different countries. Just a very busy couple months. To play some World of Warcraft for you, because this is fortunately, my favorite game. And today I'm going to head over to a target dummy, and we're going to talk about the Evoker rotation, because I'm a big old bandwagon boy, and I have decided that I like the Evoker a lot, and I'm going to probably be maining it for Dragonflight. I mean, I have so far. I've finished the campaign on this character, and I have blank brain, smooth, no thoughts. I have been doing endgame content on it, as you can see with my extensive quest log. We're just gonna close that. Stresses me out. But today we're going to talk about the Evoker, specifically Devastation Evoker. As always, I have no skills whatsoever, so I'm only going to be playing DPS. And Evoker only has 2 specs, a DPS and a healer. Healer is called Preservation, right? And then the DPS is called Devastation. Devastating. So devastating. The Evoker has 2 forms. It is your out-of-combat humanoid form, which you can sort of see right here, except it's bobbing up and down, and I don't want to make anybody sick. And you have your let's call your visage, or for the homosensuals out there, your visage, your Michelle Visage form. And then your in-combat is your Draxier form, where you are a dragon, and you're very cool, and you spend all of your money going back and forth to the barber shop, changing how you appear, because you just look great. You look great. You feel great. This is how British people talk, and if anybody British ever watches my streams, they'll say that's us. But here I am, as everybody is whenever they don't want to do these videos. I'm here in Pandaria, a place where you buy bread, and I'm going to show you a little bit about the Evoker. So first of all, the thing that everybody always wants to know about is what's different about it. And I'll tell you first out that almost everything is like another class of a different sort. Like, you have Essence, which is your secondary resource, well, primary/secondary, which is like a Death Knight. It works almost identically to runes. I mean, there's some differences, but it works a lot like runes. And then you have, Essence Burst, which is another expendable resource, which makes things not cost any essence, blah, blah, blah. It's well run territory at this point. Territory. Sorry. I just like saying words wrong. The main differences are 2. First of all, you have your 25-foot range, which at first I was like, I don't know why people are even mentioning that. It's like a non-thing. It's a thing. You start to feel it after you play for a while. It doesn't make it worse, but if you are playing a lot of mage, or specifically marksmanship hunter, and you come in and you're trying to do things on your Evoker, you're going to feel like you're right up in their face. They're a male, what's the word I'm looking for? A male spec, so it doesn't feel so bad. You are a wee bit squishy, but not too bad. As you can see, I'm decked out like Black Dragonflight right now, because why wouldn't I be? But the real thing that is different is these things called power spells, which are spells that charge up for you to use them. Now, unless I really don't know how to build this character, you have 2. So it doesn't make up a huge portion of your DPS, but it makes up some of it. Primarily, you've got Fire Breath, which you're a dragon, so you'd have to have it. And then Eternity Surge, which is your big hunk of burning love from the blue side. You basically have red and blue spells for DPS with a couple of other pepper-ins of other dragonflights. It's the big thing about Evoker is it's based off of magic from the dragonflights. So like, you have bronze spells for time, and green spells for healing, and red is for healing, and and damage, and blue is for like straight up magic damage and cold. And then black, you don't have a lot, but you have obsidian scales, so like protecting yourself, and then deep breath, which is extremely cool. But in any case, how do empower spells work? Well, I'll show you. So the first one we're going to mess with is Eternity Surge. Basically, you can see here empowering it just increases the number of enemies it hits. And if you take talents, you can make it hit double the amount of enemies. I didn't take that because I didn't want it. There. That's the reason. I don't use like a super standard build. I don't think. I'm not going to go over all the talents and everything here, but I'm going to say the big thing for me is that I focus on a build that maximizes your Dragon Rage window, which we'll get to later. But so Eternity Surge is an empower ability, hits multiple targets. So if you just hit it, if you just tap it, it'll do the first level of empowering. And you can see that's what it looks like. On the other hand, Fire Breath does a little bit of damage over time, and then, or a little bit of instant damage, depending on how you empower it. So like if you empower it only the first level, it does a longer dot with less instant. And if you empower it all the way, it does a shorter dot with more instant damage. So basically you're charging them up to get different effects. So we got to turn Eternity Surge off a cooldown. I'll show you again. This is what it looks like fully charged. I don't know if these targets are close. Oh, they are. And you see it hit all 3 targets there. Whereas Fire Breath, if we just do the tap, which is how I use it most of the time, it's going to do a pretty big hit still, and then sit there with this dot. Now, those are your only 2 empower spells. If you get really squirrely and you feel like you need to max empower something really fast, you can take Tip the Scales, which you just instantly max empower your spell. I use this primarily in PvP. It does occasionally come out useful in PvE. There are uses for it, but it's not. On a 2-minute cooldown, when these are on 30-second reducible cooldowns, it doesn't come up that much to me. And even then, like for single target, I'm mostly using the initial empowers for these. Higher level empowers are usually better for, in my opinion, for multi-target. So that's the primary difference between playing an Evoker and playing a different class with these empowers. So we'll just look at a max empower. Fire Breath again, and you'll see that it goes for a chunk. And then max power Eternity Surge, which looks good. That's really the big one. And you want to use those on cooldown because they do a lot of damage. Eternity Surge, I used to think did more damage than it really does. It doesn't actually really like kill as much as it does, except for a multi-target. Fire Breath is your primary source of damage in a couple different ways. Again, depending on the build. So much is build dependent. So we're going to be talking about my build and rotation today, which is primarily built around single target. The multi-target rotation is very, very easy. And also, I like to have an active build, so I play with procs. So primary things to know about here are... Okay. Where is it? So Dragon Rage, right here, which basically makes your mastery apply no matter what. Your mastery is based on how much health the target has. So up to 30.4% in this case. Based on the current health of your target, higher health targets take more damage. So it's the opposite of an execute. It's you're stronger right out the gate, which means this isn't a mastery you need to take first. This isn't an ability you need to start your encounter on necessarily. It actually is better to wait off of your opener, wait until your Fire Breath and your Eternity Surge are back on their first cooldown. In my opinion, again, I'm not an expert. I just play it a lot, but it's possible to do things a lot and do them wrong. Case in point, I just tried to open my talents, and for the 50th time today, I opened up the group finder instead. The other big things are casting an empower spell extends the duration of Dragon Rage by 6 seconds. So this means that Dragon Rage is 14 seconds, and extending it 6 seconds a piece for empower spells between Fire Breath and Eternity Surge means that I'm bringing it up to 26. However, with a really good use of your rotation, you can bring it up to 48 or 38 seconds, which means that it's right. Did I just do that? 24 plus 14, 38. Yeah, 38 seconds, which means that it is applying for a long window. And that's important because depending on where you are on the health bar of your enemy, you are going to be doing significantly more damage, especially during an execute phase. You really, like, if you have an execute you need to hit, you need to have Dragon Rage up. So keep that in mind. And 38 seconds is a long window to do this. The way that that works is you need to be able to double cast your Empower spells during this window. And the way that that's going to work is from a couple different abilities. I always forget where the first one is. Is it this one? Yeah. Essence abilities reduce the remaining cooldown on Eternity Surge by 1 second. And consuming Essence Burst reduces the remaining cooldown on Fire Breath by 2 seconds. One other way we're doing this is there's abilities that you stack your Essence Burst. I forget. I think there's one that makes it happen more often. Again, I just got back from vacation, so who the fuck knows, right? Increase your maximum essence. I find that useful. You definitely want these, but there's no way not to take them. And then, 20% chance not to be consumed. I don't think that this is helping, so I might be looking at a different ability. I don't know. Maybe I'll do these. I don't know. I'm still playing with it a little bit. That's one of the things I really like about this X pack is that, like, my talent choices, like, I looked at a couple guys, I'm like, I don't really love going with just like the standard great talent build, so this is the one that works for me. There's one other thing on here to keep in mind that is kind of hard to weave with the rotation that I'm working with, which is Shattering Star, which basically does it increases your damage dealt to the target by 20% for 6 seconds. So big buff, short window. It is hard to use it, but I'll show you how I fit it in. So basically, let's say that I'm getting into my Dragon Rage, one of the first things I try to do is, if possible, I try to have a couple Essence Bursts available. Again, that's going to let me use Essence spells more often. So sometimes I'll build up my Essence and I'll cast some Living Flames, which is your main single target filler. Usually one is enough for me because it can take so long to do it. And then Shattering Star, Fire Breath, Return Useless. So we've already increased our window. And then I want to start hitting with Disintegrates. Use up all my Disintegrates. And then during your Dragon Rage, every one of your fillers is going to do Essence Burst. So I just need to get this Disintegrate in, and then as soon as I can, I hardcast that Fire Breath, and that's going to let me get some more time. And you see we're up to that 38-second window. And Disintegrate is your primary damage dealer in combat because it's a channel, it does a chunk, and you can use it fairly frequently. Besides Fire Breath. And one of the nice things is that there's a talent where, like, if you have Fire Breath up, your Disintegrate makes it tick more often, which again, primary damage dealer. And then also your Fire Breath, there's another talent for your Fire Breath ticks, make your Living Flame instant cast. And then Living Flame can proc Firestorm, which is a selectable AoE ability that I take because I like it, to be instant cast and deal 40% more damage. So, like, it's kind of like a nice little synergy there. I don't think it's actually the most effective synergy, but I like it. And that's the thing, is that you're playing with these long Dragon Rage windows, and you're just using your abilities. So we're out of Dragon Rage right now. What are my priorities? Shattering Star up if I'm about to use Disintegrates on one of my other big abilities. Oh, I didn't show you your other big damage off cooldown. This one's a little bit deceptive too, so we'll get to that in a second. But so, like, I've got Shattering Star coming up. I definitely want that before my Eternity Surge. It's not as important before a Fire Breath because the damage increase is not going to cover the entire time of the Fire Breath. And for single target, you pretty much usually want the dot over the instant damage. in my opinion, because, well, for a lot of reasons, a lot of your procs are built after the die. The other ability that we're going to look at, though, is that you have to try to fit this in somehow. If possible, I like to do Shatterstar, Eternity Surge, Disintegrate, and then one of these. And this ability is Deep Breath. It's kind of like the iconic Evoker ability. And it's not your primary damage dealer. It's not your biggest damage dealer. Though it is a little confusing, because we'll talk about... In the tooltip, it says it's going to do 23,585, which is... It doesn't look like it's a lot, but like the way it calculates damage, I think, is interesting. But so it gives you this extendable line. It's kind of like a very mean blink, and you take this line and you cast it, and you're going to fly and spew fire and make a little Deathwing style wound in the world when you do it. There's also you might have seen that. I did it quick because the window is short. You have this ability called Recall, which turns Deep Breath into Recall and brings you back to your initial position. It can be very, very useful. It can be super, super useful. Speaking of movement abilities, you have a raid buff that allows you to decrease the cooldown on primary movement abilities. For you, it's Hover, and Hover is your primary movement ability because if you're playing the Evoker, you're using it basically on cooldown because it just makes you move faster and it makes you flap. And there's no reason not to like it. You can use it during your glide to dash forward. It is stupid fun. It is just the best part of the class. Hover is so useful. It's like if Blink had more flavor. It's just here's my dude, by the way. That's what he looks like as a Dragon. And as a feller. So that's your toolkit. Just a couple things I haven't talked about because we've been talking about single target. You see that they're at the end here. Very useful abilities, though, even in single target. Specifically, if you're having trouble keeping your Dragon Rage window, there's a couple little quirks here. Hover lets you cast while moving, but it doesn't affect empowered spells, and also you can't use it while you're casting Disintegrate. So you have to think ahead, and it lasts for 10 seconds. So if you're thinking about it right, you don't really have to worry about the movement aspect. So for instance, I've got Hover on. You can use Disintegrate while you're moving, but you have to be sure that you're not moving out of your 25-foot window, and you have to be aware of all of the other stuff that's happening. In those cases where maybe you don't have Hover off of cooldown and you need to make sure you're keeping your movement up, in single target, or because the casting time is so much lower and it can help you sort of maximize things, I really highly recommend using Azure Strike if you don't get your instant cast proc of Living Flame if you're using my build, which is, where is it? Fire Breath damage has a 26% to cause your next Living Flame to be instant cast, stacking 2 times. Because of the Disintegrate, Fire Breath, Living Flame combination here, a lot of times you're never going to have to cast it in combat, or hard cast Living Flame during Dragon Rage. But if you have that instance come up, I just use Azure Strike because it still procs the Essence Burst during Dragon Rage. And it's just like this little... It's an instant cast cleave, which you can't see here because it's a very small area cleave. That does some Spell Frost damage, procs Essence Burst. It just did that. That was very lucky. And does a little bit of AoE. Very, very useful in dungeons and stuff. Higher is a lower Essence cost Essence Spender that does AoE damage and looks like that. And it's instant cast. So if you're having trouble fitting things in and you want to make sure to keep your Dragon Rage window up, because it's more important that you keep your Dragon Rage window up so you can cast Eternity Surge and Disintegrate in Dragon Rage for the third 12-second window, 14, 12, 12, than it is to make sure you're using a Disintegrate over a Pyre a couple times. Less so that, though, than Azure Strike over Living Flame. Yes, it's a damage difference. No, it's not great. But if casting Azure Strike instead of Living Flame keeps you going around faster and, keeps you inside your window and lets you get your Disintegrate in, it's worth it. But the Dragon Rage window is not always the most important thing. Again, at higher health, let your Dragon Rage window die. At lower health, your damage drop off is going to be significant, especially if you're mastery heavy. Like at the end of Shadowlands, I had 50% of my, or a 50% mastery increase because of the gear that they give you when you're in Exile's Reach. You really have to make sure that you are keeping your Dragon Rage window up during those cleaves. Other fights though, like Sylvanas, it wasn't as big of a deal because she only goes down to 48%. I haven't done anything involved with the Incarnates yet. Obviously, it hasn't opened yet in live, and I didn't play the beta. But it will be interesting to see how other things fit in. So that's the rotation. Just to cover things real quick, other things I have in my bar. Again, this will depend a lot on what you choose for talents. So we have Return up here, which is your revive out of combat only. Really sucked when you were in like 20 Evoker parties and nobody had a battle res. I'm glad that that's gone, even though I'm playing an Evoker. Fury of the Aspects, I'm just going to waste it because it's so cool to look at. Is your Bloodlust, your Heroism, very rainbowy. I'm loving the whole rainbow theme for the Evokers. Very up my alley. We've got other abilities here. We've got Cauterizing Flame, which I took, which cauterize an ally's wounds, removing all bleed, poison, curse, and disease effects. Heals for 21045 upon removing any effect. Very useful for certain party instances. Like, you really have to know why you need it in the party instance. Or for, like, when you get hit with those really annoying diseases and stuff. Source of Magic, I consider to be basically, like, mandatory for party instances. When you cast an empowered spell, you restore 0.25% of the maximum mana to a healer that you have designated within 30 does it say yards, feet? I forget. God, do I not play WoW enough? Oh yeah, it's probably yards because it's not. Guys, I'm broken. My brain is gone. And where is Source of Magic? Yeah, and then there's a buff on Source of Magic, forms a bond with your ally, causing 15% of their healing to also heal you while you are below 50% health. Very useful because I do, again, find the Evoker a little squished sometimes. Answer to that, Obsidian Scales, 1.5 minute recharge, reinforce your scales, reducing damage taken by 30%, lasts 12 seconds. Pretty long damage reduction window, and you can opt into 2 charges of it. I like to use it a lot in a raid environment because why not give the healers a better a chance to focus on somebody else. Similarly, Emerald Blossom is a self-heal that hits over an area. Very good. You can also buff it so that it heals you immediately on cast. Where is it? I always forget. Somewhere here. I'm sure I have it somewhere. Oh yeah, there it is. Tip the Scales lets your next Empower be cast instantly. Unravel, which I have and I use sometimes. It basically deals damage to enemy shields. It's not always super useful because you have to fit it in, but whatever. Quell is your interrupt. You need it. I don't know. Like, there's forms of the build where you don't take it. Like, you can take higher healing abilities instead of Quell's cooldown reduction, because I think at base it's a minute. If you're not using your interrupts, I don't know who you are. Sleepwalk, which is kind of like a short polymorphs type CC. Damage takes him out of it, 20 seconds, causing him to sleepwalk towards you. Useful. It's a utility spell. And it does work in Huntsman Altamore if you're playing old content. And then we've got Landslide, which is a class ability. Super fun. Just a root, but it's very useful in PvP because it covers such a huge area. Tail Swipe, which is a knockup, which there aren't a lot of. And Wing Buffet, which is a push. I mean, honestly, the class fantasy is here big time. So just going through our main abilities again. Shattering Star. And again, this is what I have opted into. Here's my window if you want to use it, which would be insane. I can't imagine anybody actually wants to play this, but I really enjoy it. Shattering Star, damage and damage dealt buff. Fire Breath, either dot or a nuke. And 42, 531 area damage at my shitty gear level is pretty significant. Eternity Surge, either single or multi-target, instant cast or instant damage. Deep Breath, big damage in a line, and kind of a blink. Disintegrate, your bread and butter damage dealer that you're going to be casting right after your empowers, after your big cooldowns. Living Flame is your filler when you are out of essence, and also can be set up to heal you, or it also heals you and can be set up as a dot applier and a hot applier. Firestorm is meant for AoE, but with the proc it can be useful in single target, especially since this is a build where we're going to be casting a lot of Living Flames. Pyre, multi-target, Essence Spender, can occasionally be used in Dragon Rage windows. That you can see the damage difference is pretty significant between between Pyre and Disintegrate, though there is some math to be done there with like damage per essence and cast time and all that, and you will occasionally have to break your Disintegrate window, which is all there is to it. But anyways, your channel, I mean. Azure Strike, great spell, instant cast, multi-target, cleave, short range. Dragon Rage, it is just a flat out damage buff, and then of course the best ability of all time, Hover. So just real quick, I'm gonna just run through the rotation as I play it again, and we'll see how it works. This is usually when I try to do something and it doesn't work, so let's see. So boom. I didn't preload. You can see I didn't get my Living Flame instant cast there. But I also didn't use it in my Essence Flare. Or hard cast a little. Okay, so here I'm going to do something weird. I'm not going to cast. I'm going to wait in my window just to keep that up. Window up. But I made my third window. So now I'm just dropping full power Disintegrates with a ton of Essence Bursts. And then now I'm out of that, so... See, I always lose Shattering Star. I almost wonder if I should take it off because I'm not using... Oh, I'm not... See, this is the tough thing about fitting in Deep Breath, is you have to reposition sometimes. See, should have waited for my Shattering Star window there. It's kind of a complicated class to play. Apparently there used to be a disclaimer on it. And Deep Breath, if you have the cooldown reduction, it's worth just putting in your cooldown. Living Flame, hard cast. I've got an ability that lets my Living Flame strike other targets in range, depending on how much I'm Fire Breath. It can be very useful when you have a single target and it's just doing a free shot of healing, because it doesn't heal a small amount and it still applies that hot. Alright, so I've got 10 seconds left on my Dragon Rage window, and I've got most of my good abilities on cooldown. I'm going to try to build some essence and apply this hot. My Dragon Rage is off. Let's do it. Ooh, my Fire Breath is still off cooldown. See, that's not great. Not great, but... at least I got it. So this isn't the standard window because I bonked things up. Ooh, we got 2 Essence Bursts off of that. I didn't realize you could proc 2 Essence Bursts. But yeah, even with like a non-perfect cast, you can see that it works pretty fluidly. Disintegrate's a fun ability. Let's just see multi-targeting. This is the tough thing about Fire Breath. 64,000 damage is not a small one. just a real fun class to play. Very smooth. Takes a lot of thought, which makes it a lot more fun. I feel like the talents really change it up. I have to stop playing because I have to stop playing World of Warcraft to go play Dungeons and Dragons. But lots of fun. Highly recommended to give Evoker a shot. Only for the great character creation. And as always, thanks for watching. I'm glad to be back after a while. I'm going to try to do some more WoW videos. But as always, I'm Rob Sagimura, and this is GBGC. We play games bad, we look bad doing it. Thanks always. Bye.